Welcome to episode 9 of season 3 of Tight 10 at Work 10.
That means we're only 2 episodes off breaking our record.
2 episodes off breaking our record. We're potentially we're 1 episode away from double figures. I don't know if we're not 2 episodes away from matching our record.
Yeah, but yeah,
right. Because was it season 2 in the Forest of Doom? We got to episode 11.
We did before we became a demon or something.
Yes, that's right. We could have just kept that going.
We could have just written our own story. That would have been a good D&D campaign.
A demon just getting these kind of fungus creatures to make fungus, wasn't it?
But it's actually like, instead of being like a fantasy adventure, it's more like a management simulation of fungus numbers and trades and stuff.
Yeah, it could be one of those idle games.
Yeah, you just plug something in and then leave it.
Actually,
have you ever heard of that sort? What was it? It's like a realistic, not realistic. That's a dumb word to use, but it's like a starship game, but it's in real time. So like you'll give your like battalion orders and then hit mobilize, and it'll be like mobilization complete in 72 hours, and then you literally
fuck it off.
Yeah, you go fuck off for 3 days and then come back and make more decisions.
They do that with the Sims. There's a Sims live game, and so like when you put your sim to bed, so you almost like try to get it to sync up with your day.
How though? Because like if you're in work, because I suppose if you're in work, your sim's in work.
Yeah, so you send your sim to work before you go to work. You send your sim to bed before you go, and actually, and you fight and
yeah, but that means every day when you get back from work, you're like, oh, I better go and make sure my sim eats.
Exactly.
That's annoying.
Check on my sim.
What if you get bored and you want to play a different game? That sounds like a chore to me.
You can actually create because I actually got very addicted to it, right? And you can create like kind of so you can create multiple houses, and then you can stagger it in such a way that Billy fucks off to work. And then you just kind of go, let's see what Francesca's up to now.
Francesca's an artist, so she doesn't go to work. She just paints.
Exactly. So you can kind of do it like that. And it does these things like when you're building new buildings and stuff, it will say, like, this building will be complete in 2 hours. And then you go back. and so it's the exact same thing, almost like the game you're talking about in terms of kind of real time. But what they do is they give you kind of daily things. So you can open a box every day. So even though something might take days and days and days to do, it still gives you that kind of, well, if you come back, you can.
Make sure you come back now.
Make sure you come back.
I've got a game like that, except it's cumulative. I've been playing sort of on and off since it came out, which is years ago, Metal Gear Solid 5. And in Metal Gear Solid 5, the idea is that you sort of have a mercenary company that you build up over time on this like it's like a offshore platform, just industrial built straight in ruts into the sea.
Yeah.
And they have a thing called the Weekly League that runs automatically in the background. So I remember turning the game off. I didn't play it for about 18 months. And then when I logged back in, it was like, your PF has gone up 2 grades and here are all your rewards, and it just gave me like over 1 million of the currency, because it's like, we've just been running this in the background for 18 months. So I make a point like every 6 months now to go back into the game and just check,
make sure you're excellent. No, a lot of games are going down that kind of route of just leave it to it.
Yeah, there's some games that doesn't work with, like Guitar Hero.
Yeah,
Why does that work?
You're so shitty because you haven't practiced.
Guitar Hero's dead. Like I haven't seen. They haven't released the Guitar Hero in ages. I think that was like a fad. It was like a fad around 2008.
It was, and you just.
It took years to die out as well.
Yeah, you get Guitar Hero 7.
I don't even know what number they got to.
Just Dance was another one as well. I've got a pal that just Dance, and I think she played Just Dance with her daughter, and her daughter obviously, did all these different songs. And I think all she ever did was like the one song.
She only knew one.
Yeah, she only knew Safety Dance or something,
By Men Without Hats.
Everybody look at your hands. Probably again shouldn't sing this in case we get a copyright breach.
I don't think those guys are. I don't think those guys are still operational. Or Men Without Hats still going?
I think they're probably still reaping the benefits of safety dance.
Of safety dance, yeah. You can dance if you want to.
You can leave your friends behind. It's a great song.
Yeah, it is. It's excellent. Thing is, maybe that's what the problem with Guitar Hero and Rock Band and all that was. Eventually, they just ran out of like anthemic songs.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
We're gonna have to start scraping through like like Nickelback's back catalogue at this point.
Exactly. Alanis Morissette's second album.
Yeah, it's like you only have to play like the during Torn. And like the rest is just you waiting to come in.
That's Natalie Imbruglia.
That is Natalie Imbruglia. You're right. Alanis Morissette would be what's that one? You Ought to Know.
You ought to exactly. The good thing about being so unmelodic, you know, as I am, is that there's not going to be a copyright breach.
Yeah, it's true.
Going, he just did. You ought to know.
If you don't hit the notes, it doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
I've also just realized I think this might be the first stream where I'm not shaved.
Never. Do you know? I recently clean shaved for the first time I think since before lockdown.
Really? What had you been doing before that? Just using a electric?
Just doing just wanking people off on it. My face. No, I
just going through the motions.
Yeah, so I just did the kind of the trimmer sort of thing, and it felt great. It actually felt great being kind of clean shaven, and then just went, I should just do this more often, and then proceeded to just go. But I'm never like a kind of heavy growth type. I've like occasionally grown a beard, but it's just really weird.
My beard grows here. It's like
the
worst kind of beard.
Although Stevie Youngson's beard's quite impressive.
Yeah, he's got the classic the chin strap.
Yeah, which is and I think he's quite proud of it, as you should be, Stephen.
If he ever shaves his chin strap off, his jaw falls off. I had the right burns about his beard, actually. I can't remember. It was something to do with Abraham Lincoln, anyway.
Yeah, no, he does. He actually does a bit about Abraham Lincoln, which.
That's right. Maybe it's somebody else. I can't remember what it was. A roast battle me and him did ages ago, and I cannot. I mean, I obviously wrote many burns about him, but I can't remember what that one was. I'm now actually checking my phone's notes to see if it's in there. It probably won't be.
Jesse Bell's just come on and said, "Evening."
Hey, Jesse, how are you?
I need a haircut as well. I've just noticed.
Yeah, me as well. I'm just trying to figure out what it was that I said about him. I did say he has white patches in his hair, which I've never noticed. He actually told me about, which in some cultures say means you've been touched by an angel. So I said, that's good news, Steve. It turns out the man who ran your youth club disco was an angel.
Excellent. I love it. Obviously, he didn't love it.
Well,
it brought back a flood of memories.
He's the one who gave me the ammo. That's the sort of the whole point.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Just be great if you were ever doing a roast battle with somebody and you just said something, you just turned round and you just saw this kind of tear run down the line and it just ran out the room.
I'm trying to think. There's nothing. I can't think of a burn bad enough that would happen. Like they'd have to know you on a deep personal level to be able
absolutely.
to.
But
what an incredible skill that would be to just identify someone's buttons just immediately.
Well, just the ability to identify someone's weakness and exploit it immediately just sounds like every girlfriend I've ever had.
But usually they gather intel over the course of months and years.
Absolutely. The common denominator was usually a skill in the bedroom. Yeah, they always managed to just hone in on all my weaknesses.
Yeah, just not enough practice.
It's not exactly that was always my kind of take on it. I was just kind of going, well, if you let me practice more.
Yeah, just let me practice. Maybe you could provide me with a 3D print, or
you also get they not say that when you want to become an expert at something, you just need to do it for about, I think usually if you want to be an expert in anything, it takes 10,000 hours.
Holy shit, is that how long it's supposed to take?
Apparently so. So if anybody ever wanted me to become more skilled in the bedroom department, which by the way, this is me talking about sex, right? I'm not like building a bookshelf in the bedroom or something, but more skilled in the bedroom. But then they need to let me basically.
All I ask for is 10,000 hours of your time.
It's 10,000 hours, which if you're doing it in increments of like 17 seconds, like I do, that's going to take quite a while.
Yeah, it's going to be a long haul. 10,000 hours,
which is my nickname, John Long Haul Carruthers.
And
everyone, that's what usually gets the ladies hooked. They kind of go, "Oh, that's quite an intriguing nickname."
You'll be interested maybe to learn that that's 416 days.
416 days?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that would chafe a bit, wouldn't it? You don't need to do it all at once.
No.
Nobody plays the guitar for 416 days. Non-stop. Well, I know some people that do. Everybody knows somebody that does.
My brother is that somebody. My brother never, ever stops playing guitar.
I know, yeah. Just the people that just you go at a party. It doesn't happen as much as it used to, but you go into a party and then you would see that there was somebody there with a guitar, and they only knew 4 songs.
Oh, my brother doesn't have that problem. My brother knows more songs than anyone can name. But the thing is, there's not songs that anybody can sing along with or listen to. They're all incredibly complex, multi layers of tonal intricacies with ridiculous picking patterns, and it's he knows so much about guitar that he can talk about guitar for 10 minutes and you can understand nothing. He knows everything and should have just been in a band.
He instead really of just going to parties and boring people.
He didn't. He just I have no idea. He has put so much time into guitar. Probably, I'd say 10,000 hours.
10,000 hours, yeah. My son started guitar lessons.
Oh, how many of his 10,000 has he done?
He's done none. When I say he started, his first lessons not happened yet.
But right, he's starting.
I've paid for it, so technically in my head, he's already taking guitar lessons.
He's already a virtuoso.
Yeah. It was either guitar lessons or drums.
Ooh, and drums are a bastard to practice.
Absolutely, yeah, exactly. To practice quietly. So he's starting the guitar. So we'll see. He might be one of these guys in the future. You just walk into a party, you just see him in the corner, and you go, "Is that Ed Sheeran?" Because he's ginger. And then realize immediately that it's not.
It's not, as he starts doing his solo death metal renditions of classic punk songs.
That one has it just this is actually surprisingly good. Jesse thinks this is a good idea for a documentary podcast, is sex diaries. Again, there would need to be very, if it was me that was involved, it'd need to be very short podcasts.
Yeah, they have to be not necessarily short in total, but they'd be like a Japanese meal. Short meal, small meals, but loads of portions.
Loads of them, absolutely. Loads of portions. It would be, I could probably just do like a variety of TikToks, because do they not need to be a maximum length of time? I don't know.
You just have to summarize the whole thing. It's like,
Summarize the whole thing. Yeah, done.
yeah, pub, disappointed.
Yeah.
That's it. It's the whole description. Sex diaries would be very boring for me. I don't have very many interesting. The stuff I did before and after sex is usually more interesting. The stuff that led to it or happened as a result of
the
it.
stuff that made somebody say, do you know what? I'm going to let you do this.
I'm going to let you do this to me.
I'm going to let you do this. I'm going to let you violate me.
I do insist they say it like that.
You just have to say it like that. So it's the only way it's the only way you can get excited enough about it.
Yeah.
Just
I'm trying to think what would be. What was I saying? Oh yeah, before we were done this talk, before we started the stream, I was about to mention something that I forgot and I just remembered, but it's not going to make any sense.
Even better.
Outside of context, I just remember we were talking about the Italian accent. I remember watching a Game Changer episode where they like have to stare at each other, and they're just not allowed to laugh. And he very sadly, it was Brennan Lee Mulligan, very sadly described from a Italian man being like, what was it? My meatball was too slippery, ragu all over my niece and nephew. He's just like staring at this guy, and he's like, "What the fuck?" Try not to laugh.
And I would have failed.
No, well, he actually lost because Lou came back to him and just stared him in the eyes and went, "Let me win, please, let me win," and made Brennan laugh.
They were slagging off Lou's accent in the last episode of Dimension 20 that I watched.
Oh yeah, what, his posh one or? Mama, Papa.
He's got quite the accent. Again, if anyone's watching, you should just watch Dimension 20 because it's the best thing ever. Better. If you're watching this right now, just log off and go and find Dimension 20.
Well, apparently we're just shelves for them. Yeah, we are not associated with them at all.
We're not associated. I know we've now mentioned this. There we go. There's. I'm having a special rum.
Special rum? Is that like special brew?
I'm going to get dead aggressive in a minute.
The only advertising that they do for that is they take out, billboard space on the side of stray dogs. It's the only way they can reach their target market.
I remember years ago, and we will get on. We're at the stage now, 18 minutes in. I say we will go on to the quest.
Yeah, this is the point where we have to insist that we'll get on with the quest.
18 minutes in. I thought this was like, I thought they were playing a game. 1
minute to 15 minutes talk. 16 minutes to 45 minutes apologize and insist.
Apologizing for not starting yet.
This is going to start soon. 45 minutes to 59 minutes quest.
This is literally the only reason that we're nearly at double figures now. We've actually done like 4 minutes a quest.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember years ago in East End of Glasgow, up close to there's a kind of car boot sale on Sundays.
Sure.
And you can walk through kind of Alexander Park to it, and then you kind of go down this like kind of weird kind of back route sort of thing. And I saw like glass milk bottles and hairspray. And then I explained what that was about to I can't remember who I was with, but they just never kind of heard this before. Was what people used to do to get a buzz would be they would like get a glass bottle of milk, drink half of it, and then fill the half with hairspray because of the alcohol content, and then shake it, and then the milk basically coated their throat and stomach, and then they got high on the hairspray.
No, I actually haven't heard of that.
Yeah,
the closest I've heard to that is just filling a bag with glue.
They're natural. They're natural relatives. Those two kind of concepts. I think the whole kind of idea of you're going to get absolutely funked, but we're going to make sure that you're safe while you're doing it.
And they're both one level of class above Jenkum. Butt hash.
But exactly.
Yeah, that's the bottom line. Like that's the lowest you're gonna get, and then above that, white spirits, and huffing glue from a bag.
Absolutely. I just, I think it's a shame now because you see glass bottles less now. So that's
Yeah,
probably become a bit of a dying art too. I'm
yeah.
sure you can use other bottles and just
Other
fill them
bottles
with
are
milk.
available.
Other bottles are available.
Surely a plastic bottle would work just as well.
I think the reason that they had to use a glass bottle was because the hairspray started to interact with the plastic.
Oh,
And
okay.
when you're chugging, because if it started to kind of melt the plastic or whatever, if you're chugging hairspray and milk, your own health is your number one concern, and you might
Yeah.
you might want to kind of go away from like bits of melted plastic starting
It
to go down your throat.
reminds me of TCs. What my dad used to call TCs. So, son, do you want a TC? And a TC is a tin can. It's where you get Fanta can and poke holes in the body of it with a pin, and then you light that bit and then inhale through the thingy for weed. This is, by
Yeah,
the way, and
other
and
smokable drugs are
the
available.
yeah the fire burns off the aluminium and you inhale it, which isn't so good.
Flipping heck.
Yeah, but that's it. That's so. Oh, son, do you fancy a TC?
Exactly. That's a kind of parental son bonding that I feel I missed out on.
The thing is, he always viewed TCs as like it wasn't like your main smoke. It's like, son, we'll pass around to joint, and then hey, we could have a wee TC on the side.
A wee cheeky TC.
A wee TC.
Is that like if you go for like a really expensive meal and then you have a kind of a
Yeah.
drink at the end that works as a kind of digestive at
A
the end,
sorbet to cleanse the
or a
palate.
sorbet to cleanse the palate.
Yes, of course. Yeah, that's a TC. You have to have your pinky up while you're lighting a TC.
Father, oh, you're
Oh,
spoiling it.
more brandy.
I've got it's
Why
really
this? The aluminium paint off this Coca-Cola can complements this Malbec so well.
I do have a bizarre amount of brandy and cognac in my house, and I don't even know why.
Yeah, I
Because
don't.
but I
That's
do.
weird.
I've got cognacs, I've got brandies, I've got rums. Obviously, I've got whiskies. I've got, and it's just really weird. Sometimes you just kind of go, why? Why?
Where do these come from? Do you take a notion and buy cognac every now and again, or do
No,
people
not
bring it?
particularly. People must give them to me, or I must steal them. I don't know, one or the other. Yeah, no, I mean, brandy. I can understand the brandy because I usually, if I buy brandy, I've bought it maybe for cooking, and then
Mm.
I just kind of go, I'll have a wee brandy myself, sort of thing. Because brandy works well, but I can't. I've no idea how I get cognac. I must have bought it, or someone bought me. I
Is there
mean,
any really weird stuff in there, like Advocat or
no, I've had Advocat in the house, sort of
what
thing.
is Advocat? I've seen my mum drink that in the past. I don't know what it is. It looks like eggnog.
It's an egg liqueur, isn't it?
Ugh, that's
Yeah,
disgusting.
I know.
One of the
Tastes
weirdest,
it
one of the
does go in.
weirdest. You know when you meet people, they have like a standard drink. Like obviously your standard drink is rum from a shot glass, and that's a fairly normal standard drink. It's just rum. But you ever meet people with like the weirdest, like, oh, a night's not complete until we have, and what was it he used to drink? Deserano mixed with cherry coke. And
All right, okay.
that was like his standard, to the point that on his stag night, all they brought was 3 bottles of amaretto and 6 bottles of cherry coke. It's like that's the weirdest like
Yeah.
itinerary for a stag party I've ever heard. It's like, but it's because he showed me why. So if you mix Disaronno with cherry coke, like I think it's half and half. If you do it perfect, half and half, the somehow the cherry of the Disaronno cancels out the cherry of the cherry coke, and it just tastes like coke.
Oh, okay.
So it doesn't taste like anything except Coke. So it's like the easiest thing to drink. I can't imagine your stomach feels good after.
I don't imagine if someone feels good after it. But when you go back to the weirdest drink, is my gran who was pretty much teetotal,
Mhm.
would at Christmas have the old Advocate. That was her.
Like, how do you get into that? Like, where is that you get into it?
I don't.
Pubs don't serve that.
I know. I think it clearly should just been at someone's house, and he said, "Would you like an Advocate?" And then she went, "Oh, I quite like that."
She's been at someone's house and they're like, "Oh, this person doesn't drink. We should maybe try and get rid of our
Yeah,
advocate."
that's all. People only ever get into Advocate because someone else is trying to palm it off to them.
So you got to wonder how that.
Also, I think Advocate's one of these drinks as well, where as soon as you open it, it's already starting to spoil.
Yeah, yeah. It seems like it's spoiled. Yeah, immediately.
No, nobody's
Gross
gonna go,
liquid.
I've not had a glass of Advocate in 3 months. Let's get that open.
Yeah, yeah. Let's get the toffee hammer out
Exactly.
and chisel the.
You would actually, if you left Advocate for that length of time, you'd open it up and there's a drunk chicken inside.
Yeah.
I do know enough about biology to know that not all eggs turn into chicken, right? And usually, by its very nature, an egg means
No, sure. At the bottom of every bottle of Advocate, there's a little baby chick that
a little
absorbs all of the
dent.
stuff, and
It's like tequila, and like good tequila, and the worm.
it's like the worm except crunchy, and you just like, and then
Exactly.
when you swallow it in half an hour, you're tripping,
And
coughing up feathers.
if you buy cheap alternatives, there's just like a nugget at the bottom, like a wee kind of.
It's like a wee. No, there's a wee human fetus sat at the bottom
Oh, what about
in every bottle.
every bottle guaranteed, or your money back?
Don't leave it in the cupboard too long. You wouldn't want it to gestate.
So, I would think I think Advocate's up there as kind of weirdest drink.
Yeah. Sweet sherry's quite weird. I always thought.
I like a sherry. Again,
Sweet
usually
sherry.
after a meal, I like a sherry.
A sweet sherry.
Yeah, just kind of Again, from like it's pretty much the same glass as this, except it looks classier and it's got lines around it, and that's your sherry glass.
Yeah,
It's just basically a pretentious shot glass. You go. Sometimes with a stem.
With a stem?
Yeah.
Is that because they have to grow them?
They have to, exactly.
You have to break them off the plant.
And then you snap it off the sherry tree.
Yeah, and you leave the stem intact because people like that. So they know it's a homegrown.
But when you're talking about me and the rum, the rum's relatively new. The rum became a lockdown drink.
Really? What did you drink before?
Anything really. I don't. Yeah, rum. I mean, I'd had rum before lockdown, but I really got into rum in a big way during lockdown. In terms of spirits, I was always a whiskey man.
Really?
But if I was sitting here,
never really liked whiskey.
If I was sitting here doing a stream every Monday or Tuesday night on whiskey, I think it'd be a really different dynamic.
How so?
Well, I think the first couple, I'd be like, kind of go, oh yeah, right, okay, you've got the choice of climbing up this tree or facing the orc, and then probably about 4 whiskeys down, I'd be like, kind of going, you've got the choice of going north or south, and you'd say, oh, but why can't I go west? And go, because you fucking can't.
It doesn't say in the book.
So say west.
I don't remember it, so it never happened.
I told you a story offline last week because we have mentioned whiskey before. It was either last week or the week before. I
think it was the week before.
I told you the story about how it was pretty unforgivable to a friend once, and that was on whiskey. But again, it's like everything. I know people say that alcohol, you either are aggressive on alcohol or you're not, but I do think some drinks are more kind of endemic to bringing out certain aspects of your personality. And I think whiskey in moderation is great, but I think whiskey's more likely to bring out not so nice behaviour. Definitely in me.
For me,
I think
that's vodka. For me, it's definitely vodka.
I can drink vodka till the cows come home. I can drink vodka all night. I genuinely, and I've said this before, I don't think I change that much when I'm drunk.
Yeah, unless it's whiskey.
But even then, it takes a bit to get it. But I do even just thinking about it and talking about it now, I'm aware of the fact that, and I think that was the last time, apart from some times with my dad, that was the last time that I really went hardcore on whiskey.
Wow.
Because I know fine, probably because you've got that kind of survival instinct that I know fine well that if I got aggressive to my dad,
yeah,
it wouldn't have ended well for me. So I think, but I remember a time my dad and I walked into a pub, and he wanted a Macallan, and they said, the Macallan was done. It's like, it doesn't matter. I went, no, we've got more bottles. And they took it down, and they put a bottle of Macallan in, and my dad and I finished it and got a fair whack through the second bottle as well. And we were pretty much the only ones drinking, unless somebody was really sneaking. But we were at the bar and we were chatting, and we were, sort of thing, and we did. So my dad was quite, but my dad was the same as me. The only way you could really tell that my dad was drunk would be if he was basically, if he was saying goodbye for the evening, he might do a slight sway on the way back to the apart from that, he was no different than he was sober.
You reminded me of that thing Bill Burr said when he's talking about drink driving, and he's saying that, he says, whenever everyone knows that you're wasted and you try and leave the party to get to your car, it feels like what being in the Beatles must have been like. It's like, no, everyone's screaming, women are screaming, holding on to you, trying to keep you. He's like, no, autographs, please. or what was it Hannibal Buress said? He's like, you ever be so drunk that you give people a lift home, and then you're shocked that they actually get in the car with you? He's like, sit down. It's like, oh shit, you guys must really need a lift. I'm wasted.
But I suppose, got a cramp. Shit. See, live as it happens, got a cramp in my foot. I don't think Glasgow's a big enough place for me to ever feel that my choices were get into my car or not get home.
Yeah,
I've walked from any point of Glasgow to the other.
Yeah, it's the same for Edinburgh.
Edinburgh, I would say even more so. But there's been times when I've been out intending not to drink, had a drink, left my car, walked home, and then walked back the next morning to pick my car up.
You're just walking off the booze.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'd say the not sure I should be telling this story, but I'm going to tell it anyway. Was one Christmas I got particularly drunk, like as you do. This was a long time ago. I got particularly drunk, and then the next day was Boxing Day, and I needed some stuff from Tesco, and it was when I lived in Denniston. And I could have walked to Tesco in about 10 minutes. Really, in real terms, I could have walked to Tesco in 10 minutes. And instead, I decided the next morning, about 7 a.m., to jump in. Now, it must have been later than that on account of the fact that it was Boxing Day. So let's say 9, right? But I'd been drinking pretty much late, right?
Yeah.
At 9 a.m., I walked down and I got into the car. And I moved my car out, and I was driving down a street in Denniston. And the second my car was fully onto the street, away from the parking, fully onto the street, police car behind me.
No way.
Honestly, so I was like that. I was like that. And then a police car was behind me. Not like kind of flashing the lights and kind of going.
Yeah, just coincidentally.
Yeah, you were just like kind of going, oh my God, it's the cops. So and then I try to lose them. Right,
I know people that have done that, but go on.
try to lose the cops.
No, successfully, but go on. I'll
Oh,
say it
excellent.
after.
That's another story. That's a story for offline. But anyway, so I drive down. I drive down the street and then turn left. I won't go through the entire navigation process to get to Tesco, but I turn left, and then the police car turns left too, and then basically follows me the entire way to Tesco.
Well, is that because it's Boxing Day morning and they're like,
It's Boxing Day morning. They follow me the entire way to Tesco. And it's at that point, and by the way, I hadn't thought about it before. It's at that point where I thought, oh my, well, it was as soon as I saw the police car, I just thought, I'm probably over the limit.
yeah, probably.
So I drove to Tesco,
Mhm.
and I got into the Tesco car park, and I parked the car, and the police car actually drove behind,
Where you parked, yeah, like blocked you in.
blocked me in, and I had nowhere to go. And then they got me. So it was a real kind of maneuver sort of thing. And someone subsequently said to me later on, they said, apparently the police aren't allowed to stop you and like a private car park. And I said, I'm not entirely sure that's true.
yeah.
Does that mean that if I shot somebody in a car park, there's not a lot we can do about it? Because it's
yeah, he's in a. As soon as he steps out of that private car park.
So I kind of like so I'm like, oh, and I get out the car.
Officer, I didn't see you there. Follow me down the street.
One of the police guys gets out of the car, and I get out of the car and start walking towards him and says, could you get back into the car, please, sir? And I go and sit down, and I'm about to close the door. I went, no, leave the car door open. And I was like, this is a bit weird. And then he instantly got me out of the car again.
He had like checkpoints on his notebook.
He had checkpoints.
Sure they remain in the car.
He got them out of the car again, and got me into the back seat of the police car.
Mm-hmm.
And they're both kind of sitting there and said, do you know why we stopped you today, sir? And I said, no.
The smell of whiskey.
The smell of whiskey and red wine permeating from every pore. And they said, do you know why we stopped you today? I said, no. And then they said, it's because we're doing, during the Christmas period, we're doing random spot checks because people are more inclined to drink drive during the festive season.
So were they just waiting on your street for someone to pull out?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if they just went, right, we're doing him. And they said, so that's why. And I was just sitting there kind of going, I can't believe someone would do that. I mean, just really. So they breathalyzed me.
Yeah.
And it came back negative.
Ooh.
It came back negative to the point that I was so shocked that I nearly asked them if I could do it again. And it was shortly after. Do you remember Scotland changed the rules and their tolerance for the kind of breathalyzer levels were about half or maybe even a third of what it was in England.
Yeah, holy shit.
And I'm still to this day thinking, there's no way. I still don't know how I passed that test.
You probably failed, but he just thought you were a cool dude.
No. So they gave me the straw. They actually gave me the straw. I went, oh, there you go. That's a kind of, I can't remember the word. A memento of the
souvenir.
Yep. Yeah. And I just kind of walked into Tesco, got what I was getting, and was actually terrified to get back into the car in case I get stopped again on the way back.
Yeah, I've had moments similar to that, but not drink driving. But it's another time. I was saying about I had pals when I worked at the factory back in Larne. There was a bunch of guys who were part of, like, do you know the 1 a.m. car park crew? And it's like people that hang around in car parks at midnight, 1 a.m. and they're all in their Japanese imports. and they love, lowering their one of them had his car lowered so much that I would ask him. There was a shop that was a little bit up the motorway from the factory, and you could walk it, but it was a pain in the ass because lunch breaks were so short. So I got him to drive me, and he had this car that was lowered so much that when you got to a speed bump, the front wheels went over okay, but then it got stuck on the skirt, so he had to turn the wheel to like move. You could just hear grinding. It sounded like an industrial process, grinding the car across the stone. Every speed bump was terrible. But one of them was telling me, so a lot of them race up the carriageway, but then the police patrol that, so they race sometimes on the back roads.
Right, okay.
Because the speed limit on the back roads is 60, so you can get up pretty fast before you're breaking the law. Anyway, one of the guys was sort of just practicing on the back roads by himself. Now these are like trash roads, like really, really bad surface work, just because they've been there for ages and they're up in the hills where no one cares. So they're racing all around there, and eventually someone who's in one of the houses must have phoned the police and been like, "Look, someone is just tearing up the streets over here." So he ended up he see police in the distance, sirens on. So he's like, they're in whatever standard issue Northern Irish cop car is, and he's in an imported Japanese like highly tuned machine with turbo. So he's like, I don't think there's any chance they could catch me. So he just went like just tore it as fast as he could. He knows all the roads. He knows like a lot of them don't go anywhere. A lot of them like go on big windy paths, and some of them are like, so he knows all of them like a map in his head. So he just tore across the countryside until they weren't following him anymore.
Excellent.
I suspect that a lot of them have done that because their cars are so powerful. It's like you see them going up the shore road at like 120, 130 miles an hour. There's no chance of police. There's no chance police is catching that.
They wouldn't even try.
Yeah.
Any police officers I know would just kind of go, it's not really worth it.
Yeah, it's like even if you're a better driver than them, your car's not good enough.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got no chance. I will just, again, this seems like a backpedaling special, but it's not. It's a kind of caveat to what I was saying earlier on, was if I had walked towards my car and it had occurred to me that I might be over the limit, I would never have set foot inside. But it never occurred to me, which might be an indication of how fucked I actually was. But it never occurred to me that I might be too drunk to drive down. And it wasn't until I saw the police car, I went, oh, wait a minute, this might be a thing. And I'm sure that happens to quite a lot of people. They kind of go, I feel fine. And then suddenly the fear hits them when they're suddenly surrounded by cops. Kind of going,
I've never had surrounded by cops. I've been in cars where I know that the driver's drunk. Like, I know, but due to extenuating circumstances, I'm like, well, I mean, it's either be stuck here for a week or get in that car. I'm getting in that car.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, but
been there. I've got a couple of similar stories that I probably shouldn't tell you online.
Yeah, I'm thinking as well. Like while we're talking about this, I'm like, I've got a few stories that I'm not going to tell.
Yeah, I've definitely got one. That's an absolute cracker. But not only am I not going to tell you online, but I'm also not going to tell you when I'm potentially near shot of my children. So that's one for the next time we're at the pub.
Well, we're at the 44-minute mark. Do you think we should?
Let's do it.
May as well do 15 minutes of questions.
Let's crack on. I wonder if anybody just sits and watch. I know my brother actually has. My brother watches sometimes, and my brother has actually sat and watched us talk shite for about 40 minutes, and then when we actually start the honest to God quest, he just kind of goes, "Right, that's me done now."
Yeah, that's the good stuff over.
I'm not interested in Chris fighting a goblin.
Well, more fool you.
Excellent. And if you do Google Chris Ashworth gets a goblin on Google, there is a surprise bonus video for that. It's only 17 seconds long.
Yeah,
but it's
but
worth.
they do catch your face in a beautiful light,
They do. They do. Absolutely, you've got a glow.
innit?
There's a sheen. There's a sheen on you.
No, I meant on your face.
All right. Yes. Also, related videos are Chris enters the Forest of Doom.
Chris enters goblin mode.
So that's our Patreon account, or possibly OnlyFans.
Maybe we should do a Patreon account where we just tell all the stories that we say are
Absolutely, yeah.
are
We
too
can't get that
juicy for the
online.
main
Yeah,
show.
because I always thought, because we talk about before it and we sometimes talk about after. I'm thinking some of that's gold.
Yeah.
Also, some of the stories that I tell are potentially about people that are watching.
Yeah, none of mine
Actually,
are about people that be watching, but they are people that if they find out that I told the stories,
yeah.
the next time I go back to Northern Ireland, I probably have some plastic kneecaps waiting for me.
We got you these. I won't go into too much specifics, but I did tell a story on this once that I knew the person that the story was about wouldn't have watched it.
Really?
People that know the person that the story is about will have. And I
Oh
won't get
yeah.
into any more detail than this, but I just went, almost as I was telling the story, I thought, well, I have to finish it. But I know in my heart of hearts, I shouldn't be telling her. And when I say that when, if I'm drinking, I don't seem significantly different. I think that is the one big difference, is the fact that I don't think I get any less coherent or seem to be kind of, but
Yeah.
definite barriers come down where you kind of
Yeah.
go,
Yeah, well
it's appropriate to tell that story.
that's what booze does though. That's
Yeah.
the lowering of inhibitions.
Yeah, you just kind of go, and there's no harm. And again, there's always a part of my mind that says, well, I can't mention her name, or I can't say such and such, or I've got a friend. But they're usually, and it's always a her. And if you're watching, you know who I. No, but there's times when I just go, there's enough there that somebody. But then that's also relying on the idea that people might actually be watching this.
And
Really,
keeping a timeline, like
yeah,
if they're keeping a timeline of all the times certain things have been
yeah,
mentioned and then
and they
adding
go,
them up, then really, they can attain that knowledge, but they have to live with the fact that they are a loser.
yeah. And this is actually the secret way that I get more viewers, is the fact that somebody right now will be kind of going, Alan, we think that you would maybe be able to work out who John's talking about. And then he goes through the entire back catalogue, says, I'm not sure, Davey. And then Davey gets involved, and then he's kind of checking it. And then Jason's there, and and suddenly we've got 3 new viewers who have watched everything, kind of trying to join the dots. There's no pattern or coherence to it, but I've now potentially planted the seeds.
Imagine being a private detective and you were hired to figure out
Who I was talking about.
from a stream. You had to sit and watch every
Us.
episode of a stream to find one piece of information.
Yeah.
What a hellish existence.
I know, especially if it was this stream, they're kind of going, I don't even know what they're trying to do here.
Yeah. I can't visualize any of this.
Just, I mean, they said this is called the Forest of Doom, and John and Chris were talking about meth for 40 minutes.
Hey, I don't think we mentioned meth once.
We haven't mentioned meth once. It was an example.
It was subtext.
Yep. It was a meth subtext. So, so we should probably go on with the quest, but it's great as well, because I do sometimes think that I have made it quite explicit within circles of friends who I might be talking about, and then remember that A, they're probably not watching, and B, the person I'm talking about is probably not watching either. But,
I know that no one I know is watching this, because the only way that they would get this link is through Facebook, and none of my friends know you on Facebook.
Fair enough. There we go. Yeah, so it's fine. It's fine.
I can talk about whatever I want. I only hope that my work never discovers this, which is the only reason I hold back on stories on this, is the thought that one day maybe someone from my work will watch this.
I did. We will go into the quest shortly, right? We're at the 50-minute stage, so I feel we should. I did during lockdown. I did right at the beginning of lockdown. I did an interview on just because they were looking for people to talk to, and they were approaching comedians and stuff like that. And then they discovered I worked for the NHS as well, and I thought, well, this is a double header.
Yeah, we got a real winner here.
Well, we need to go for this, and of course, so I did this interview. It was like 9 o'clock at night, and it was a stream, and it was live, and they started talking about kind of mental health, the mental health, and this was way back at the beginning before we realised that mental health might be the issue that it potentially was. But so we were right at the beginning. There was vulnerable people; they weren't able to go out, blah blah blah, and we were talking about the mental health implications. And I, for some reason, decided when the guy that was interviewing me said, so have you got any advice for anyone that might know somebody that's struggling with their mental health during, vulnerable people who might be struggling with their mental health during.
Do you know, you should never, if you know that you have, if you have a comedian and you're interviewing them, never give them an open-ended question like that. So what would you say to all of the people that are suffering in lockdown? And it's like, come on, man, don't give me something like that.
We gravitated towards the kind of healthcare aspect of it. We did.
Sure.
We absolutely did gravitate towards the health, away from the comedy. But of course, I still had my comedian hat on because they had approached me as an alleged comedian. And so they said, and again, I'm not a healthcare professional. This is the thing. You hear NHS. I mean, I'm not a healthcare professional. Maybe I wasn't the right person to ask this question, but I just looked into the camera and said, if you know anyone that might be vulnerable from COVID, who might also be suffering mental health difficulties, I advise you right now just to go and start knocking on doors. And when you open the door, just give them a big hug.
During the pandemic.
and then one of my work colleagues actually did tune in to that video and mentioned the fact that maybe I shouldn't be joking about that.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
Holy shit! I'm trying to think why I would get in similar trouble for my work works with conservation stuff a lot. So I guess if I made a joke about destroying the planet, maybe they wouldn't like that. And I made a lot of jokes about destroying the planet in my time.
Yeah. I mean, I said it in a very tongue-in-cheek way, and it was in context, but some people might not have got the nuance of it. The nuance of me joking. I was also, and I like to think this is justification. I was considered high risk and vulnerable at the beginning because implications of having had a heart attack, etc. And I was, in my opinion, being self-deprecating when I made that joke, but at the same time, probably shouldn't have done it. So there you go. Anyway, right, quest time. We've got 7 minutes. I want us to go to question. Is this a new record, Chris?
I think this might be, yeah. I think this is the longest we've waffled on.
We've waffled on for 53 minutes and 47 seconds. Let's do it. Right, as you remember, and this is the thing, this was my hook when we watched this. I mentioned the fact that there's an infection within the ship. And everyone's going to go, that's quite exciting. We'll find out what's going on there.
Yeah,
of course, we've barely touched on it.
Yeah, the engineer and the dock and bay were all quarantined.
This might be a two-parter. A
9-parter so far.
This is episode 9, as I've said before. So we might. I was going to say we might end up on a cliffhanger, but we also do that every week too. So, but anyway, I'm just saying this might be an infection two-parter, which is the worst kind of infection. When you think the antibiotics might get rid of it, and then comes back a week later.
And then you just got to cut it off.
Just got to cut it off. Absolutely. Got a couple of stories about that as well. But again, So anyway, so using an EVA suit, the extravehicular activity suit, the medical officer examined the body of one of the victims, found that the man had been poisoned. The planet below must have some sort of poisonous gas in its atmosphere, and this has now been carried back to the ship. And you've got the choice of getting a medical officer to search for an antidote and treat the crew, or evacuate the air from all the affected sections. That was your cliffhanger.
And there was 2 affected sections. What I mean, we got to let Dr. Springfinger have a run at this, so get it rolled. We've only got 5 minutes left.
So we're going to get Dr. Springfinger to try and come up with an antidote.
Of course, yeah, we got to try and get an antidote. We can't just let them.
I'd have spaced the fuckers, but that's just me.
Thing is, it didn't even say space them. It just said suck all the air out, and then we got to clean up all the bodies afterwards.
But I'm assuming that you would just give them a warning and tell them to put their evac suits on.
Yeah, or well, then we don't know who's infected, so that's not going to work.
So you have to roll 2 dice for your medical officer, and if the roll is equal to or lower than the skill score,
Springfinger has a skill of 12.
She's got a skill of 12. So with 2 dice, you need to get 12. I think we'll be all right.
Yeah, with 2 dice, we need to roll a 12 or under with 2 dice. Oh god, this is so hard.
You know what? Maybe we should leave that in a cliffhanger. Did you succeed or not?
Well, then we have to fill time for 3.5 minutes.
Absolutely. So you're lucky enough that
you know what we're like. We can't fill it. We can't fill time at all.
No, absolutely. So that this is.
Are you counting up the dice? Is that what's taking so long?
I'm not counting up the dice. I realised how bad my eyesight was, and I went to the wrong page.
Oh, right.
I need to start wearing my glasses on this stream, honestly. I was like, that doesn't make sense. It took me to another paragraph, and I'm kind of going, why have they landed on a planet?
Take mine.
So your medical officer comes up with a possible antidote and tries it out on herself, entering the affected area without an EVA suit. Watching her on a monitor screen, you see her enter the docking bay. Moments later, she falls to her knees. Her antidote has not been successful. Well, I obviously went to the wrong page.
Wait, maybe her antidote can never be successful.
That's bizarre. Sorry, they've swapped them round.
That's weird. That's really weird. So like
they swapped them round. So the irony be so they've got them wrong. So that clearly there was a misprint in this because
yeah, they should be. So if you don't succeed, it says you've cured them.
Yeah, what it was you succeeded in your role and then it killed your medical officer.
That's brutal.
Your medical officer will do the right one now. That's just bloody hell. Your medical officer comes up with a possible antidote and injects herself. She goes down to the docking bay without her EVA suit and waits. An hour later, she's still showing no signs of illness. The antidote has worked. All the crew report to the medical section for treatment. Bloody hell.
Jurassic Park.
That confused the hell out of me. Back on the bridge, you set your course. Ahead of you are 2 planets. You can either head towards the large red planet or a blue planet, or there's a small, fast-moving spot which seems to show signs of life. Big red planet, big blue planet, or something, a fast-moving spot that seems to show signs of life.
Fast-moving spot.
I think that sounds more exciting than anything else.
Yeah. Got to examine shooting stars.
You head into space with scanners probing ahead of you. A small, fast-moving dot comes within range. As you approach it, you identify it as another ship. You send out an all-frequency radio message, and soon an alien face appears on your screen. The face is brown, scaly, and somewhat reptilian, and introduces itself as Captain Mi'kmaq. Mi'kmaq of the Imperial Ganzig Confederation.
Okay, we have an Imperial Federation. We found the Darth Vader.
So here we go. McMahon declares that you're trespassing in Confederation territory and claims you as a prisoner. He instructs you to follow his spaceship to a nearby starbase, when to accompany him, or refuse to be captured.
I'll refuse to be Wait, maybe that should be a cliffhanger. So we're at an hour now.
Yep, that's a good shout, actually.
I wonder what I'll pick.
Oh, no, exactly.
God damn, 10 minutes. That's some per quest. No, 7 minutes. That's some per question time.
I know, absolutely. So that's your cliffhanger. Are you gonna refuse, or I promise next week that we'll get into it faster.
We say that every time.
I know,
We've never ever got it shorter than right now.
We should just edit it so that it's just pure question and see. We've probably done it about 2 hours of honest to God.
The ultimate question mix of
ultimate question. We did boring. I think you need the 48-minute preamble.
yeah, just to ease you into the question.
Just to get you ready for a good question. So that's us. That's our cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Exciting times. We'll find out what happens next week. Although, even as I'm saying it, I'm thinking for some reason I might not be able to do it next Tuesday.
It's not even Tuesday today.
Not even Tuesday today. But we'll work it out. We'll work it out between now and the next episode. So this has been Tight 10 and Titan. This has been Chris Ashworth.
And this has been John Carruthers.
See you next week. See you next Tuesday.
See you next